Day 17, Sister Mary of the Sacred Heart Bernaud. Live Jesus, 1825 to 1903. Foundress of the Guard of Honor of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. Chapter 8, Day 17, Trials and Blessings. The very nature of a victim is to be immolated. Sister Mary of the Sacred Heart Bernaud was soon to experience this once again. This time, the trial came through strong opposition that struck at the very foundations of the work and vigorously challenged the special devotion offered by the guards of honor to the wound of the heart of Jesus. Those who opposed the guard sought to base their objections on the words of the Gospel. Unus militum lancea latus eus aperui. One of the soldiers pierced his side with a spear. John 19:34. They argued that the Gospel explicitly mentioned the opening of our Lord's side, but did not state that the spear had reached his Sacred Heart. The silence of the Gospel concerning this particular detail became the basis of their objections. However, this difficulty found its answer in Christian tradition, in the spiritual interpretation of the Fathers of the Church, in Christian iconography, in the liturgy, and above all, in the tradition of devotion to the Sacred Heart, which has always contemplated the open side of Christ as a visible manifestation of His redeeming love. In the midst of this intense controversy, an ancient spiritual work was discovered containing a reproduction of a 16th century engraving in which the heart of Jesus was represented as opened by the lance, with blood and water flowing from the wound. This ancient representation awakened particular interest in the foundress of the Guard of Honor. In time, the objections gradually disappeared, and devotion to the wounded heart of our Lord came to be recognized as legitimate. The lance could once again appear on the dials of the Guard of Honor after having been removed for a time because of these controversies. The wound of the heart of Jesus. Finally, on June 13, 1876, Pope Pius IX enriched with indulgences the prayers of the most precious offering of the blood and water flowing from the wound of the divine heart of Jesus. This act held particular significance for the Guard of Honor. The Supreme Pontiff thus confirmed one of the fundamental practices of the work: the contemplation and veneration of the wound of the heart of Christ, from which blood and water flowed. 13 years earlier, Sister Mary of the Sacred Heart had understood that the Guard of Honor was called in a special way to honor the mystery of the lance that opened the side of Jesus upon the cross. From that moment forward, she devoted all her strength to spreading devotion to the wounded heart of Christ, contemplating it as an inexhaustible source of mercy and grace for the Church and for the world. For her, that wound was much more than a symbol. It was the open door of the Redeemer's heart. It was the visible manifestation of a love that had loved to the very end. It was the source of the blood and water which, according to the spiritual tradition of the Church, evoke the gifts of salvation flowing from Christ crucified. The name of the work is also challenged. At the same time that devotion to the wound of the heart of Jesus was being questioned, strong opposition also arose against the very name, Guard of Honor, which Sister Mary of the Sacred Heart had given to the work. For a long time, she had to suffer and struggle to defend and preserve that title, which she treasured as the apple of her eye. The echoes of those controversies reached even the very cradle of the Guard of Honor. While the work was spreading rapidly and extraordinarily throughout many places, in Bourg-en-Bresse it seemed to pass almost unnoticed. Around it, there gradually developed what might be called a true conspiracy of silence. Extreme prudence was considered necessary. There was concern that the new association might be perceived as competing with other confraternities of the Sacred Heart already established and approved by the Church. For this reason, the community was urged to remain withdrawn, silent, and faithful to the spirit proper to the visitation order. Precautions were also taken regarding the promoters' tickets, guard tickets, First Friday guard cards, billets, which were beginning to circulate widely, as well as regarding the external expansion of the work. The recommendations addressed to the Visitation Monastery of Bourg were particularly strict. For many years, shadow and silence surrounded the cradle of the Guard of Honor to such an extent that it almost seemed to have become its tomb. No outward practice clearly revealed the existence of the work. Its name was scarcely spoken in the chapel of the Visitation. Even visiting preachers were asked to respect this prudent reserve. From our perspective today, such precautions may appear excessive, but we must place ourselves within the historical circumstances of that time. The Guard of Honor was still a very young work. Its extraordinary expansion had to be prudently discerned by ecclesiastical authority, while, at the same time, remaining completely faithful to the contemplative spirit of the Visitation Order. Moreover, the trial itself was necessary to purify the instrument God had chosen. Trial as a sign of fruitfulness. Saint Margaret Mary Alacoque hath taught that we should not be surprised when works intended to spread devotion to the Sacred Heart encounter opposition. Trials, when received with fidelity and humility, can become instruments through which God purifies and strengthens His work. How many sacrifices, misunderstandings, and painful interior martyrdoms had to be accepted by those who collaborated during the first years of the Guard of Honor in order to secure its future. Only the heart of Jesus fully knew those sufferings, and perhaps the Lord allowed them to be placed within the very foundations of the work so that it might rest upon solid ground. But those long sufferings belong above all to the Venerable Foundress. Sister Mary of the Sacred Heart received them as messengers of Providence. For love of Jesus, she endured them with humility, silence, and gentleness. And those trials would eventually become one of her purest joys when the complete triumph of the Guard of Honor finally came. Rome welcomes the Guard of Honor. On May 31st, 1872, Cardinal Constantino Patrizzi, Vicar General of His Holiness for Rome, signed the decree by which the Guard of Honor was canonically established in Rome, in the Church of Saints Vincent and Anastasius, entrusted to the Camillian Fathers. The decree was published on June 7, 1872. This was an extraordinarily significant event. Rome officially welcomed the Guard of Honor, and with that approval, the name of the work, which had been disputed for so long, was also confirmed. Shortly before, on March 25, 1872, Pope Pius IX had received and blessed a delegation of the Roman Guard of Honor and had himself asked to be enrolled among its members. He would later recall with particular satisfaction his title as First Guard of Honor of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. After so many years of silence, uncertainty, and contradiction, these graces must have reached Sister Mary's heart as a providential response. God had permitted the trial. Now the fruitfulness of that sacrifice was beginning to be revealed. The Guard of Honor is raised to an arch-confraternity. But an even greater grace was still to come. On November 26, 1878, Pope Leo XIII, through a pontifical brief, raised the confraternity of the Guard of Honor established at the Visitation of Bourg-en-Bresse to the dignity of Arch-Confraternity of the Guard of Honor of the Sacred Heart of Jesus for France and Belgium, and Bourg remained its center. For Sister Mary of the Sacred Heart, this event represented far more than an external recognition. It was confirmation that so many years of obedience, silence, misunderstanding, and suffering had not been in vain. The little seed silently planted within the Visitation was beginning to become a great tree whose branches would extend far beyond France. Some time still passed before the new Arch-Confraternity could be fully organized and the event solemnly celebrated in the chapel of the Visitation. When that day finally arrived, a moving ceremony took place, presided over by the bishop and attended by numerous priests and faithful. It seemed as though a breath of grace and resurrection passed once again through the souls of the faithful and through the work itself. After so many years of silence, the Guard of Honor could once again raise its voice publicly. At the conclusion of the celebration, that hymn so beloved by the first Guards of Honor was sung. May the whole earth form the Guard of Honor and triumphantly sing glory to His heart of love. Their voices joined together with great enthusiasm. That celebration seemed to answer so many years of silent tears. The work that some had feared might disappear remained alive. The Church had welcomed it, Rome had approved it, and the heart of Jesus seemed to confirm what Sister Mary had learned throughout those long years of trial. The works of God are not strengthened by success alone. Very often, they are first strengthened through the cross. Opposition had purified the work. Obedience had protected it. Suffering had strengthened its roots. And now, after Calvary, the joy of the resurrection was beginning to appear. God be blessed.